Vax passports seem like the latest incarnation of the brave new world. But when you stop and think about it, the issue is as old as dirt. The book of Genesis explores this with the tale of Cain and Abel. You'll recall, I'm sure, that Cain, in a fit of jealousy, kills Abel. When God asked about Abel's whereabouts, he uttered the immortal line, "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" I think this is an early philosophical attempt to discover just how much we're responsible for each other and ourselves. So let's think about how this relates to today. There's something in the pro-vaxxer type that feels ashamed when they see robust, healthy people like you and I willing to make greater sacrifices in the name of our health. We mostly exercise, eat right, take the necessary supplements, and we refuse to give in to panic. This calls out their cowardice and lets them know that they too could be like this. Just as Cain envied Abel because he had the strength of character to make the proper sacrifices, they envy us, I think. It's not that Abel's inherently good and Cain's inherently bad, but Abel is willing to undergo sacrifice and good things come to him because of it. Some people like us are inspired by such paragons. The pro-vaxxers are ashamed. Like Cain, they can't live with their own shortcomings in relation to personal responsibility. And just as Cain kills Abel so as not to be a comparative failure, they demand we all mask up and get a vax passport because in not doing so, this shines a light on their own failings, physical and moral. In killing Abel, Cain loses the ideal by which he can properly assess and orient himself. He is therefore cursed by his own actions. This is some truly timeless wisdom. Incapable of personal sacrifice to better their own existences, pro-vaxxers turn to masks and the vax and demand everyone do so. And just like Cain, they play the victim when confronted by a smiling, unmasked face or a healthy, free-thinking person who's concluded they don't want the vax. I'm not religious, but I've started to think that about face masks as a modern-day mark of Cain. You'll remember that if anyone harmed Cain for their troubles, they were punished sevenfold in return. I won't develop that here, but the parallels go on and on with his story. When I was researching the issue of vax passports, I came across an appalling propaganda website called www.schengenvisainfo.com, which looks to be some kind of EU-funded entity. It reported, COVID-19 vaccine set to become world's most powerful passport in 2021. It went on, with millions of vaccines already purchased and more on the way, the world is set to become COVID-19 immune by 2023, by which time many hope life will return back to how it was before the pandemic outbreak. Well, do you see the implied propaganda? This will go on till 2023 if you get vaxxed, and that's your best hope. If you don't, it'll be longer. Within less than a year, God, was this written by a chimp? The pandemic has shocked the economies of the majority of the world and brought many industries to their knees, including the travel and tourism industry, which, for many countries, has been a powerful contributor to their economies. So setting aside the comic book English, remember it's not COVID that caused the economic damage, it's the lunatic response to it. Never let them gloss over this one. Sweden kept on as normal, more or less, and their economy is in much better shape than those that shut. It's not the bug, it's the politicians. The website goes on. Groups of anti-vaxxers, fueled by the high volume of fake news and conspiracy theories, have been going on for months now, and they've also rejected the idea of vaccination passports. There's a lot in that one. First, of course, you're labelled an anti-vaxxer, not someone who thinks maybe trials should be completed for a new therapy before giving it to the entire population. And remember, you're fueled by fake news and conspiracy sites, not legitimate concerns that any number of doctors and scientists have, as well as the mounting casualty rates and legitimate concerns about a rush therapy with wholly unknown longer-term consequences. So I thought I'd have a look at the arguments in favour of a vax passport, and The Guardian in February took a swing at it. The first seems to be straight-up blackmail. Get vaxxed or you're not leaving the country, sonny. A sort of medical Berlin Wall, if you like. I had thought that arguments might be a bit more nuanced, but nope, straight to threats. In 1960s East Germany, if you rejected communism, you had to stay in the country. Today, if you reject medical totalitarianism, you might not be allowed in Tesco. The second case they made was employment opportunities. Again, want your freedom back, sonny? Expect to be able to work? Get the jab. Once again, more coercion, more strong-arm stuff, no actual argument. It's absolutely extraordinary. And that was it. No other arguments at all. I was expecting something along the lines of, you'll be protecting others, or variants could emerge unless you're vaxxed. But nope, straight coercion. Pretty poor journalism, and anyway, the above 2 points are easily debunked. Firstly, if vaccines work, get vaccinated and you've nothing to worry about. I had the polio vax as a kid, and I couldn't care two hoots if anyone else is vaccinated. As to the new variant stuff, well, they give people a flu jab every year, and we get new variants every year, but funnily enough, the world keeps on spinning. So what are the arguments against them? Well, first, there's the obvious problem of a worldwide technology system that actually works and is fraud-proof. It won't work. Government IT schemes are a notorious disaster area at the best of times. So how much more will this be, considering there are hundreds of countries potentially involved? We couldn't get track and trace going in the UK alone. As to fraud, former Home Secretary Jackie Smith once tried to introduce ID cards. Just as she was claiming they were fraud-proof at the presser, a national newspaper showed up with a fake ID card for Jackie Smith. That killed its own dead. Also, I was chatting to a friend of mine from the Middle East, and apparently if you pay your doctor enough, you can have a positive or negative PCR test. It'll be the same with vax confirmations. So even if we do it, many corrupt countries won't. So the whole thing becomes a farce. Then there'll be mission creep, just as we saw with masks. First it'll be international travel, and soon enough it will be to go to the sweet shop. And there's a fundamental problem here. Hitherto in the UK, we could more or less go about our business unimpeded. Now we have to prove something to the state. No thank you, I'm free. I'm not beholden to some fascist. Jackbooted or in a white coat, the result is the same. As for medical confidentiality, should you really need to disclose your medical history to a security guard in Tesco? Oh, you could harm others is the claim. Well, so could a recently released violent offender from jail, but we grant them some privacy. We don't ask them to wear the leper's bell. Can we have the same privacy rights as, say, violent criminals? And let's not forget, this is not taking an aspirin. Trials don't finish until 2023, and there's no information on something called teratogenicity, which is the study of the impact of any therapy on the human genome. This animal research was simply not done, so we don't know what might happen. We're told not to have unprotected bedroom fun after being vaxxed for 28 days, and by definition the longer term effects are unknown because there simply is no data yet. Now, I've heard some chilling predictions about cytokine storms, sepsis and organ failure, but we just don't know. So is it sensible to insist on total coverage and deny travel and various access in your own country to your own citizens, which may partially protect against something which killed only 388 under 65s last year? Now, once you've accepted that at the entrance of the store, it'll shift to the checkouts as day follows nights. Food rationing could easily follow, especially if some zealous vegan was head of the ministry in charge. Too fat, citizen? Best you have some broccoli and put the pizza back. Relieve the pressure on the NHS. Is that the sort of world you want to live in? As I said at the start, this is a timeless struggle, so let's be clear. If enough of us say no, this can't happen. Don't throw away your children's freedom because you want to have a week in Spain or go to the pub. We have to resist this, and if enough of us do so, it will collapse. Petitions won't do it. 300,000 people signed a petition against this, and the government said, we're thinking about it, which we all know means they want to do it. We can't afford to lose this one. Have the vax if you judge it right to do so, fine, but grant others the freedom you would surely want for yourself. If you like this, please like, recommend, and subscribe.